Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to my Wild Hunter. I know what you guys are thinking and I have to explain myself. It's only been a few days. How did I get from 130 something that I left myself off at in the previous part to level 251? I assure you guys that this was not the result of just training. Thankfully in this event that we currently have, there are a lot of different things that give us EXP that I've been using to power level myself from level 200 to 250 in such a short amount of time. Of course, I did do some training. I did spend a good amount of time in Shadow Dance Hall 2 here in Morass, and I was streaming myself training for quite a long time, and I had one very specific goal in mind, and that was to get to level 244. The reason for this is because throughout the last couple of weeks, they've given us a lot of magnificent growth potions, and I had a slight issue where I had two of them expiring from the Angelic Buster and Lucid event. So I had a bit of a timer to try to get to level 244, and what I ended up doing was I did train quite a lot, mostly on stream, and then once I hit a certain level, I decided to claim a lot of the slime masks that is in the current event for EXP vouchers, and then I used a lot of the EXP vouchers from the current event. You can see here from my Lucid event weekly, I've claimed most of them already, and all these was to try to get to level 244 as fast as possible. Because I trained and used a lot of these vouchers, I was actually able to hit 243 or so I just needed to do a little bit more. I did a little bit of Monster Park, I did a little bit more training, and I did actually manage to hit that goal of 244, and then I claimed every magnificent growth potion that I could find, and I sent myself from level 244 to level 250. Two of them were from the Angelic Buster Lucid event, three of them were from the Go West event, and one of them was from the Dreaming Latchland event. That put me at level 250, and right now I'm currently level 251 because I have been training a little bit. Now that I've unlocked Moonbridge, I've been training here in Last Horizon 4, which is a really nice map. I think you guys might have seen me train on that on my Xenon as well, and I've just been enjoying myself, and I'm currently sitting at level 251. The reason why I really wanted to get to level 250 was actually because it cuts down a lot of my dailies. All of these areas now only require 200 mobs per region, and most importantly from Asphera and Morass as well, all of these games only require me to do it one time. So I don't have to do 3 attempts anymore on any of these weekly games for my arcane symbols, which is really nice. Just cutting it down, saving myself time. I haven't just been training though. There are a lot of new upgrades on my character that have happened during the time that I went from 240 to 250. The first thing that I wanted to talk about is actually my familiars. I've been farming a lot and been opening a lot of familiars, mostly from my Xenon, but also from the ones that I've been farming myself. You guys can see here I've done a lot of farming in Moonbridge already, and I have already removed a lot of these blue shadows that I've been farming in Morass. I had to get rid of them because they're taking up space, but I think I've opened about 50 or so epics, and I have come out with at least 2 decent ones so far. I have 2 IAD fams here at 30%, which is quite nice. This already sets up my Wild Hunter to be a little bit better than my Battle Mage already. My Battle Mage, I believe, only had 1 30% IAD and 2 15%. But for my Wild Hunter here, I have at least 2 30%, and then my third one currently will be around 15%. And the fact that I've been opening a lot of epics has helped out a little bit as well. I have a few HP fams. They're not large HP, but they are restore normal HP amount to my party members, which is pretty decent. And on top of that, I do have a normal drop rate familiar. It's not large drop, but this will give us a little bit more drop rate when we do break our boxes. For now though, for my familiars, I will be spamming these soot beasts that you can get from Last Horizon 4. I'm just working on these, trying to get them to epic in hopes of getting a large drop fam. And then once I do get a large drop fam, I'll pivot over to trying to spam uniques. The familiars that I do not want to get rid of right now are these Cernium librarians. You get these ones from Cernium, and I've just been transferring cards over from my Xenon whenever I have spares. So this way, once I hit 260, I can immediately go to the 260 area and then try to farm these fams instead, and then push these to unique. So I just basically have the epics already set up. I'm just waiting to be level 260 to start getting some uniques. But hopefully, I will be able to get some large drop fams, maybe some boss fams if I get really lucky. And as you guys can see, I haven't really hit anything, but we're just working our way there. One more thing to talk about my fams is that I am slowly trying to get these equip badges. I currently have 5 of them. I need to unlock another 5 or so. They're pretty straightforward to get. I just haven't gone out of my way yet to go get them. But we do have a lot of really easy ones to collect. For now though, I've just been using my medium drop rate fam, training up as many of these familiars as I can to level 5 so then I can try to get them to epic. And for my damage fams, I have the 2 IED fams like I mentioned. The familiars are not the only gains that I have made on this character so far. One of the main things I need to try to do is try to get my star forcing up. And the reason for this is because I really need the damage to try to do some more bosses. My biggest goal for this week is just currently a few hours before reset, is that I really want to try to get a clear on Lucid and Will, ideally on the hard versions. That way I get a chance at trying to get things like Twilight Marks, Arcane Boxes, and of course the droplets from these bosses as well. But my character is not particularly strong, a lot of the star forcing is at 10. But on stream, what I decided to do was, I decided to try to star force some of my CRA gear. My approach for this character is a little bit different though compared to some of my other characters, because I have a lot of resources but I don't have a lot of spares. I've only cleared Chaos Root Abyss once for example, but I really wanted extra stars past 15 on my hat, my top and my bottom. And I had to decide on how to do that. What I decided to do, I had a lot of Pencilier fodders. I collected a lot of spare hats and a lot of spare overalls. And what I did is I sent them from 0 all the way to 21. Or at least I tried to. The goal of this is that I was trying to get the fodder to 21, and then I would transfer that 21 Pencilier over onto my CRA, and then just leave my CRA at 20 until I have spares. Typically you wouldn't fodder into CRA, but because I lacked so many spares, but it's so easy to farm Penciliers and it's relatively risk-free to try to go for 21 Pencilier, I decided to give it a shot, and after a few fodders, I did actually manage to hit 21 stars on my Pencilier hat. After I hit 20 stars on the hat, I decided to go back for my belt. I had a superior drop from one of my earlier runs in Golix, and I really wanted to make it useful, and I had 2 spares. I went in with pretty low expectations. I blew up my first spare pretty quickly, but the second one actually did manage to go to 21 as well. I transferred the 21 belt over to my superior Golix belt here, and now it is currently sitting at 20 stars. Also with a decent pot here, 18% dex. Between these two items, it has increased my range by a decent amount. At the end of the previous part, I was at about 1.5 mil combat power to 2 mil combat power. And now I am sitting on almost 3 mil combat power, and this is actually on my training set. You can see here my hypers are set to my training, my legion is my training grid, and I don't have my links on. I think if I switched everything over onto the damage setup, I'd be probably closer to about 3.5 to 4 mil combat power, which is a huge damage increase. I'm getting pretty close to being able to do some bosses that I wouldn't have otherwise done, and I'm really excited for reset because of that. Just to round things off with my gear, the last upgrade that I managed to get is this secondary. I showed that I got the Princess No secondary and I tiered it up to legendary, and I actually managed to get 2 lines of attack, which is amazing. This is the ideal potential for me because not only does it give me a good amount of damage to do to bosses, it also helps a lot with my mobbing. And now that I'm 250, I'm actually lacking decently in Arcane Force, so this little bit of extra attack really does help me out. So those were my gear upgrades on my Wild Hunter. The next thing I really wanted to talk about was the steps moving forward, especially now that we're about to have reset. And I have all the chances to try to do all of these bosses all over again. And there are a few main goals in my mind. I mentioned before that I really want to try to do Lucid and Will, especially in the hard mode, but I really need enough damage to even do 5% to these bosses to get contribution and then get a chance at the drops. I do have my friends that are willing to trade me, but I don't want to keep them in the boss for too long. So let's have a look at the gear and see where we can make some gains that will definitely help us get into these bosses so we don't have to spend so long in Lucid and Will. The first thing that comes to mind is for sure my Absolab pieces. Both of them that I currently have are sitting at 10 stars, so this is an easy upgrade. I should try to get them to either 16 or 17. I know there's no event on at the moment and it doesn't feel that great to Star Force, but this is a mandatory gain, I think, to be able to do the bare minimum of 5%. On top of that as well, I ideally would like to be 5 set Absolab. First upgrade is definitely has to be this weapon. From the Absolab shop, I'll be able to buy my new Abso weapon. And you guys can see here, just the base weapon of the Absolab crossbow, it already beats out my current one by a fair amount. And that is no surprise, the current one I'm using is only level 120. And I don't really have much of the treasure set bonus anymore, so it's not very good. And the Absolab crossbow is quite strong. And I plan on trying to get this from the Damien shop. I know I'm at the Lotus shop at the moment, but I will be trying to buy this with the Damien cores. I'm currently sitting on 4 Damien cores right now. I just need to get one more run in as soon as reset happens. And I should be able to do enough Darkworld Tree to get that Abso weapon. In this weekly party event, I do have a 17-star scroll that I can use immediately on my Absolab weapon once I get it. And then I'll probably give it a decent potential and flame just so then I can get a lot of extra damage. That should give me the most obvious increase in my range. Another thing that I'll be able to get is if I clear Lotus one more time, I should be able to also get the cape to put me on 4 set total. But one thing that I would like to really do, which would be the ideal situation, is actually get somehow a run in Hard Lotus and Hard Damien. Obviously, I am barely strong enough to even do normal, and over the last couple of weeks, I've been running it in a bunch of random parties. But for Lotus and Damien, if I run the hard version or find somebody who's willing to take me to those bosses, I have a chance at getting not only the cores, but also a chance at the boxes themselves. It will save me a little bit of effort, but if I do manage to either get a weapon box or an armor box, I'll actually be able to skip either one of these, and I'll be able to buy the other. Basically what I'm saying is, if I can get into a hard party, I might be able to skip out on one whole week and also give me the 5 set. They'll give me a lot of items to play with, and because it is reset, I will be able to get a lot of money, and these items should be a pretty easy upgrade for me. So that is the main goal so far. I do want to get my Absolab gear as soon as possible, so we're just kind of waiting for reset. So I'll see you guys in a little bit after reset, and we'll see what we can do. So after the reset, I managed to find somebody who was willing to trade Hard Lotus and Damien with me, and they were willing enough to also wait for my Wild Hunter to do enough damage in both of those bosses. We started off in Hard Damien, and it did take a little bit of time for me to do enough damage for the 5%. I believe it took me about 10 minutes to do all of the damage required to be able to blue dot, and I was really hoping for just a weapon box or an armor box. Both of those would have been pretty nice because it would have saved me a little bit of effort trying to get Dark World Tree and Scrapyard tokens. But unfortunately, I didn't get any boxes. Even though I didn't get any boxes by the end of Hard Damien though, I was able to get 4 cores total, which put me on enough to buy both the shoulder and the weapon. Similarly, I also went ahead and did Hard Lotus, and we didn't get any boxes there either, but we did get enough cores to go ahead and get our Abso cape. After running those bosses, of course I had to do a bunch of Scrapyard. I didn't record a lot of it because it was pretty awful. I think I did 2 sets of Scrapyard and about 7 sets of Dark World Tree. And with those tokens, I was able to afford both the weapon and the shoulder from the Damien shop, and I bought the cape from the Lotus shop. This puts me now at 5 sets Absolab pieces gained. I just need to do a little bit of work on these items for them to be usable. Currently the weapon has a tier 6 attack flame, which is probably where I'm going to leave it for the time being. I flamed up the Abso cape a little bit, now it is currently at 85 stat. And we also have our shoulder. Both of these are at epic. I do have my current weapon that I'm using that I didn't really talk about. I just got a quick Fafnir weapon and got it to epic just so that I can get a cheap 6% attack. And I'll be able to transfer this star over onto my Absolab to save myself an epic pot scroll. Now that we have an epic weapon, I can actually do a pretty cheap upgrade thanks to the event that we have at the moment. From this weekly party, we do have a 17-star scroll here, and I will claim this and put it straight onto my weapon. The reason why I'm putting it on the weapon as opposed to the cape or the shoulder is because I think the weapon is probably going to take the longest to replace. The chances of me getting a weapon drop is quite low from any of the Arcane River bosses, so I'm kind of expecting this to be the last thing to be replaced. As for the armors, I will just have to Starforce them manually to 16. I believe we started off today at around 5 million combat power, and with this 17-star scroll, he jumped up to 7.5 mil combat power, and I haven't even finished Starforcing or wearing the rest of my Absolab set yet. This character, just from the Absolab weapon, has gained quite a lot of damage, and honestly it's mostly because of the Starforcing. The 17 stars does add a decent amount of damage. It looks like it adds 96 attack here for 17 stars. As for the rest of the items, for my gloves, my shoes, my shoulder, and my cape, I would like to Starforce these up to at least 16 stars. I do have quite a lot of money from all the bossing that I've done across my account so far and a little bit of farming. Getting these to 16 stars will be a lot of extra damage because the 16th star will give us a lot of attack power. And to do that, I will just go into the guild hall to give myself slightly better odds. Hopefully it doesn't cost too much to get to 16. And there we go, all of our Absolab items are now currently at 16 stars. I'm only going to get to 16 stars because I'll have to safeguard these, and safeguarding items to 17 can be quite expensive. and I'd rather not do that off event if I could help it. This should already give us quite a lot of extra damage. Each of the items get a basically extra 10 attack, with the glove getting an extra 17 attack because it's a glove. And of course, most importantly, we get our 5-set Absolab bonus, giving us so much more attack, so much more IED, and a lot of boss damage as well. Just before we started our star forcing with our weapon, we were at 7.5, so we already gained a decent amount of damage here to 7.6. And then with the rest of our items, it pushes us up all the way to 8.5. Most of it coming from the fact that the 5-set bonus gives us 10% boss damage, which increases our combat power by quite a lot. But overall though, we have gained quite a lot of extra damage, sitting at 1800 attack power, which is much higher than what it was before. With about 10 bill remaining, we have a few options to how to spend our money. I think the first thing I want to do is try to get all of these to at least 7% dex like my glove is. I don't want to invest too much into Absolab because I would like to get into arcane bossing and hopefully get some arcane armor boxes as soon as possible. But we'll just have to see how much my damage is. If my damage isn't quite high enough, then I'll have to make some other upgrades. But for now though, I have a bunch of these hard cubes I could use to re-roll the items, and I'm just going to hope for 7% dex. And there we go guys, we got our shoulder a free tier up with these hard cubes to unique, and I re-rolled a little bit to get it to 10% dex, which is fine. And our cape managed to hit 7 and 7% dex, which is great as well. Don't have to worry about upgrading these again for a little bit, and I think if I do decide to try to push these, I might consider trying to get this to legendary. But for now though, I'll keep them as they are, and I'll focus on other things for the time being. In terms of new items to focus on, the first thing that I decided to do was go ahead and finish the rest of my dailies, and we actually managed to get our fairy heart from the current event. After finishing the entirety of the Dreaming Lachlan event on the weekly side, we managed to claim a fairy heart, and it's pretty much the best in slot heart at the moment outside of the black heart. But because the fairy heart is permanent, we will be using this for quite a long time. And after claiming it, I decided to put it to legendary and then go for 2 lines of dex on it. Pretty straightforward gain here, and I'm pretty happy that it didn't cost too much to get to legendary and 2 line. I don't think I'll be pushing it to 3 line anytime soon, even though it is one of the cheaper items to 3 line. Mostly because I think my mesos can be spent in other ways. And by other ways, I mean I decided to try to go for another 21 star Pensilia fodder. I had about 12 bill going into this, and the reason why I decided to spend a lot of money trying to 21 this fodder was because we don't really have any star forcing events anytime soon. And I have been doing my weeklies on other characters, and I have been farming a lot on my Wild Hunter, and I figured because we don't have a star forcing event anytime soon, I think it was a pretty safe gain to try to go for this 21 fodder. And at the end of the day, if it didn't get to 21, that's okay. I'm just trying to get as much damage as I can so then I can contribute to Hard Lucid and Hard Will. After about 8 bills spent, the fodder did eventually get to 21, which is really nice, and we transferred that over onto our top, putting our top also at 20 stars. Now as you guys can see, I have all of my items here equipped with the fairy heart at 2 lines of dex, and I also have this 20 star top. I claimed a lot of these weekly event cubes, and I used them on our Absolab gear, and you can see here I re-rolled everything into unique with at least 2 lines, except for this cape, which is currently sitting at 7 and 7, which is perfectly fine as well, and the weapon at just 10% attack. With all these gains that I've made, and with my full links and full legion, my character has now skyrocketed to 11 million combat power. We started off this part with about 3 million, and we almost tripled our combat power. So many gains were made, and it's all thanks to the fact that this Absolab set, getting it to 5 set, has been a huge increase in damage, and also this Absolab weapon is so much better than the one that we used before. My main priority right now is to try to get as many Golix coins as possible so then I can start working on my superior set. I'm still hoping on the earring drop, which I don't currently have, but until then, I think we are going to try to get access to a lot of these replacement items. I think the first thing that I might consider actually might be Commercy. I have talked about it a little bit on stream. Right now, I don't have a Black Bean mark, which is usually the item we replace this aquatic letter I accessory with. So perhaps I will start Commercy just to get started on a monocle. The monocle, even though it probably won't be transposed anytime soon, will still be a lot better than this aquatic letter I accessory. But again, it is another daily that is not particularly fun to do. It's just something that I will be possibly considering. Other than that, we do have some spares here. I have a Carnage treasure that I might try to push sometime in the future. Although right now, I'd rather try to safeguard these, so I'm probably not going to Star Force this until we have an event. But otherwise, we do have a lot of items that we can use. The last item for my CA race to get to 20 stars will be these pants, so I do still have a lot of overalls that we can transfer over onto the pants. Depending on how much money I have, currently I am on 5 bill. I farmed a little bit of it back, and I'm just trying to save up a little bit of money so then I can try for another 21 fodder. And once these pants get to 20 as well, I could consider trying to fodder these reinforced earrings. If I can get an earring to 21, they'll be perfect fodder for the eventual earring drop, or worst case, I'll have to buy them. So there are a lot of items that we can Star Force here still, even though we are waiting for events and for drops. With 11 mil combat power, I think my character is actually strong enough to give a go at Hard Lucid and Hard Will. The only issue is finding a party that is willing to wait for me to get to blue and get the 5%, so then I have a chance at arcane drops, but that's something that we're just going to have to hope for, and we'll have to wait for that. But for now though guys, thank you all for watching. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this series so far with my Wild Hunter. Take care, and I'll see you all in the next one.